Check, check. You're the voice of love that's calling. There's a chair that waits for you.
Hello? There we go. Check, check. No rain check, just a check. Cashiers, preferably. Get a counter check, bank check, teller check, you check, I check. Are you ready to travel, Rachel? What time you leaving? Miss Rachel leaves at 5:30 a.m. That would be Tuesday morning? 5:30 a.m. Tuesday morning. Rachel's wheels up. Well, I'm proud of you. I'm glad you are following through. You get that email and I'll send it. Then I'll leave you alone, Maddie. Anybody know Joel's email? I don't have it saved. Whichever one she's logged in, she's going to tell me here in just a second. But good morning. Thank you for being here. Are y'all tired of it being cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot? Well, just stop. Say thank you, Jesus, right? Because as long as there's cold and hot, he's on the throne. Hallelujah. That's the fun part. I have to get used to this new head thing here. It works good, though. It sounds good. I can hear myself. So you guys know we've been what? Studying on the book of Revelation. And we're trying to learn a little and see a little and clear up a whole lot of, right? Because whatever you think or whatever you thought you knew or whatever, make it match the word, right? No, the word has got to change you. We're going to renew our mind to what the word says, okay? And we're going to just continue on. Are up to Revelation chapter 4. There's no S on the end of that, by the way. It's just Revelation. Because it is the revelation of Jesus Christ to John. All right? From God. That's right. We're going to read a lot. If you will, you can flip on over to Revelation chapter 4, verse 1. Quick summation, we learned in chapter 1 that John was in the Spirit on the Lord's Day, right? We discussed that. We won't rehash it. But we found out that somebody said what? When he turned around, Jesus was there, right? What he thought was the Son of Man. Fiery eyes, feet like brass in a fire, right? Yep. White hair, wool, poof. We found out that all that was because it was what? Not because he was an old man. Not because his shoes were yellow. It was what? It was the light. It was the powerful presence of purity and light shining from him because he is the bright and morning star. Okay? All right? And then chapter 2, we began to see about the letters, right? That he said, hey, John, write these letters to the 7 churches in Ephesus. And we saw that that was in Turkey. And then after we saw that, we saw where they were on the map that we showed up here. We saw the places. They weren't that far away, were they? Some were like 20 miles away. Some of the furthest ones were 40 miles away. Okay, so it wasn't that big of an area. Okay. And we continued on, and there was corrections made to 5 of the 7 churches, right? 2 of them were congratulated and sent on their way. Just keep up the good work, right? The other 5 were not what? They weren't beat, were they? They weren't put. Uh-oh. Something's happening. They weren't away, right? They were chastised a little bit, wasn't they? And they were done properly, the way the Lord does it. And we found out that one of them in particular must have what? Took heed to what he was asked to change, made the change in so much that they killed him about 12 years later because his church was just, they just couldn't control him. So they had to shut him up, so they killed him. And well, obviously, something's up. How about now? Better? Okay. Sounds like going Morse code up here today, right? But we found out that some of them did adjustments and they moved forward, mostly all of them, right? And it was really unique that we found out that he didn't mention some of the bad that was going on in the world, did he? Because remember we studied the one church, Pergamos, and it had issues, right? Very what? A lot of idolatry, a lot of craziness. But he never went after that, did he? He didn't go out and try to highlight sin, did he? Did you notice that? What he did was he said what you were doing and commanded to be good. Right? Make an adjustment. Yeah. Because he was talking about Jezebel, you remember? He said make adjustment against that spirit. Because he was Adam, wasn't he? And he said, you make that adjustment, tell the people or I will. Do you remember that part? He was telling the pastor, he said, you tell them or I will. And I'm going to do it with what? We'll kill them? We'll burn them at the stake? No. He said, I'm going to do it with the word. Right? He said, I'm going to take the word and I'm going to show them with the word. And if you're not the one to do it, do it. Simple. Right? Okay. Then we move forward and John comes, if you want to say it, back into the physical. He wasn't in the spirit at the moment. After that letter, because we can tell by the very first verse in chapter 4. All right? Chapter 4, verse 1. It says, after this, I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was it were of a trumpet talking with me, which said, come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. This voice is the same voice that was in chapter 1, which means it was whose voice? Jesus' voice, okay? And verse 2, excuse me, it says, and immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. So we can see that John is having quite the experience, and he's out. Hello, one. Immediately he's out, and then he comes back, and then again, he looks up and he sees a door open to heaven, literally a door. And he hears the voice says, "What? Come take a look." And John's like, "Okay, all right." And immediately he's caught into the Spirit, and behold, he sees a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on that throne. Now, that person sitting on that throne is God. Okay? We're going to see it here in a couple more verses, but it was actually God sitting on that throne. And he says in verse 3, and he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone, and there was a rainbow round about the throne in sight like unto an emerald. So think about that. That rainbow's what? It's a reflection of light, right? So the light from him is passing through those wonderful elements, right? Giving off that light. You ever look through one of those spinny things, kaleidoscope, or what is that what they call it? Is that right? You see all the different colors? That's light passing through. Well, he, right, is light. Light, poof. So what you're seeing around the throne gives it a look. You have to picture this in your mind. It looks like this rainbow is over the throne because that's all the light and color poof, coming through it. That's pretty, isn't it? Yeah. So don't mess that up. The world has tried everything to destroy the purpose of them colors and that bow. Okay? Now, if you move on, excuse me. And just so you know, you can look some of this stuff up and compare it with the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, and it's going to have the same exact reference, and the same descriptions. And what's really going to be unique is you're going to be like, wow, So I can see that John's experience, right, matches what was written. You got the same thing. God's the same when, yesterday, today, and forever. So if you have an experience, it better line up with the Word. If it does not line up with the Word, put that one on hold. Okay? Because you can have experiences that aren't from God. Remember that. Okay? Now, here's where we get some really good information. John's now in the heart, if you want to say it like that, throne room. Right? Let's fix this. It might not bother you.
Check, check.
All right, check, check. It works. Can you hear me? All right. So, verse 4, we get this information. It's really unique. And we find out that there's a big, I see the problem now. I figured it out, but I'm going to still use this microphone because I don't want to get into that later. How's that? Technology, right? You got to love it. And verse 4 of chapter 4 says this, and round about the throne were 24 seats. So all of a sudden you can see that there's a throne here, and all the way around it are 24 seats. But if you look up that word seats, it's the same as throne from earlier, okay? So it's 24 more thrones around the throne, okay? Now, it says that, and upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, 24 people, right, sitting there, clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold. Now, this is kind of important. Got all these numbers, what's happening? So, there were how many apostles? In which testament? The new one. How many tribes were there in the Old Testament? What's 12 plus 12? Isn't that neat? So we've got 12 from the Old, and we've got 12 from the New, and we got the guy in the middle that ties them all together. That's cool, isn't it? That's neat. Okay. So you can look this stuff up. If you want to look it up, I'm going to read this right here, Matthew 19 and 28. And it says, and immediately, hold on, Matthew 19 and 28, it says, and Jesus says this to the disciples. He says, verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. He told you about this. Now John, when willing, right, he can see this in the written word, or what would be a scroll back then. And you can see it now. It's really neat. Okay? Now, you can also see it in Luke 22 and 30. It says that ye may eat and drink in my table in my kingdom and sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So now we got multiple places, okay? Check mark, check mark, check mark. Right? I remember a pastor when I was growing up, he said, you better find it in at least 3 places. He said, that's what I use the rule of thumb. And I said, that's great. I'm happy for him. He said, it better align. That way you can't take a scripture and take it out of context. You better find a place that it matches before you can just swallow. Isn't that neat? Okay. Now, let's go on down to verse 5. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices. And there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. It's really unique to me. We usually just blow through these, reading them. But the last time that you were within, how close do you think you would have to be able to tell that there's 24 seats around a throne with people sitting on it? What, half a mile? I mean, I'm just saying. When was the last time you was in a half a mile of a lightning strike? You probably have maybe once or twice in your life, maybe, if you're lucky, maybe more if you're a storm chaser. But what I'm getting at here is, who knows the power of that, right? Ooh, right? And this is continual. Heaven's going to be loud. It's going to be real loud. Sorry. It's not going to be on mute. It's not going to be ocean silence, right? It's going to, put yourself there. He's describing this. Because I'm sure John had been around a lightning storm or two when he was in those boats fishing. And he's probably had them hit the water around him. Saw the pitchforks dance on top. I've done that. I've been there. I've had the hair raising up on my arms. It's like, uh-oh, this is close. Boom. And it's everybody runs, fire it up and hit for the bank. But what I'm getting at is, imagine what the best thunder. You know the thunder that shakes the house? Right? And you're like, whoa. Got to put the pictures back on the wall. And anybody that's ever lived beside a railroad track, you know how a train, you can feel that in your chest. Well, the lightning you usually don't feel in your chest, but just for an instant. The thunder, boom, one time. Continually, guys. That's a heartbeat in it. Boom, 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 boom. You got to think about that. That's quite the description if you slow down and put yourself in the moment. All right? And then it goes on to say, and there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. So here he is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Spirits of God. That's really unique. Do you remember last week when was it last week we put the menorah up there? That is a study within itself. You've probably saw the Catholic priest carrying it around. You've probably heard about it. And that thing, I started studying it and I was just like, The description that God gave them or he gave the metal worker, the fastener, to build all the way back in Exodus was just phenomenal. Because you have to think, Genesis, Exodus, right? Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy didn't exist yet. I'm trying to give you a little timeline. Moses hadn't fully, penned them, if you want to put it like that, because it's a reference. And he's reading about what's going on. And to think that John's going to have this vision, you're talking 2,000 years later, 1,500 to 2,000 years later, John's going to have this vision of this, and it's going to match that. And not only is it going to match that, God was so specific when he told the guy that was fastening the metal about this candlestick he wanted him to build, in essence, what we call it now, or menorah it's been referred to. That thing was so specifically built that it aligned number-wise. We'll go over this one day. I'm not going to get too deep on it. That it aligned with 49 connections, which meant there was 49 scrolls of the Bible. There was 27 books. It's just amazing of the New Testament. Each one of these buds, you need to study this thing out. It's just phenomenal. But what I'm getting at is he had this thing so perfect that he matched the New Testament books, the Old Testament books, the amount of scrolls that would be written, the amount of connections, and all this was fastened in Exodus. And this old boy is just making it, trusting God. don't got a clue what he's building. He's just building what he's inspired by the Spirit to build. And this thing's so perfect that it matches with no discrepancies to John on the Isle of Patmos 1,500, 2,000 years later. God so got you, stop worrying about it. Okay? He's so far ahead of you. You might be thinking about something you got to face this week, something you got to face next month. He is, in essence, he was prepared for John. Think about that. And he's no respecter of persons, right? He's looking for faith. Joel and I were talking about this earlier out there. You're going to find out here in just a minute. The only reason you were created was for his pleasure. And there's going to be a whole lot of you don't understands and a whole lot of whys in your life. You can clear up a lot of them by his word. You'll get in it, dig it, learn it, live it. But the ending of all of your existence, Tony Blankenship, you were created for God's pleasure. Stop worrying about it. Jim, same for you. Same for you. Same for you guys. You were created specifically for his pleasure. And you can't please him unless you have faith. And not only have it, but use it and exercise it. That's the whole purpose of your existence on this earth. And once you get in faith, you can start to discover the plan and you can begin to walk it out. And you can find out who God intended for you to be. Because when I make something, when I'm at work and there's a piece, you know, y'all might remember, did I tell you about the forklift tearing up? Water pump went out in it. I called and ordered specific numbers, you know, going to get this thing done over with. Because it's holding up the whole show, because it moves everything, right? It's one of those deals like, just don't hurry up and get absolved. We're going to buy a new forklift. And it was so unique that they sent me the water pump. And it's one of none, right? And it comes in, and it looks exact. It's almost perfect. But then I realized, like, oh, no. It's got a 1/4 inch dip in the back of it, and it just won't mount to the block flush, which makes it completely useless. Even though it looks identical to everything, but it's completely useless to me at this point. So all of a sudden, I become an engineer. I was like, I'm going to have to build something to shim, make, drill, all for what? My pleasure. Because it's pleasurable for me to be able to get on that thing and go vroom and move that entire yard around. Because if not, I'd have to get out there and what? Try to do it by hand, which is almost impossible. I've even made a statement a few times, if I didn't have that thing, I'd quit. Right? And that's what I'm getting at. When he makes something, I was having to make these shims and this stuff, and I was not trying to make this thing, right, to work. But he made it perfect, obviously. And you have to find that. It is your job to find your place and to walk it out. Not his. He made the way. He is the truth, right? He is the light. You're all that. When you got born again, it's in you. Now you have to what? Crucify the flesh and find it. It's not a hard process in the aspect of how to do it. The hard process is what? Crucifying your will and finding his will. Because when you find his will, it's what? It's perfect peace every time. It might not feel that way when you're doing it, but that's why we don't trust feelings. We trust the word. Yeah. And it's like, are you sure? What's the meaning of life? Right? I can tell you what the meaning of life is. He made it. Figure it out. Plug yourself in. Get moving. You'll be so happy
that you can't get depressed. If you're depressed, you're out of God's will. End of story. If you're depressed and you're the pastor, you're out of God's will. If you're a lay person and you're depressed, you're out of God's will. You are not doing what He has for your life. Because even in the most turmoil, most tumultuous storm, if it's in God's will, you're going to be like, man, that's a good storm, wasn't it? Yeah. You could be in prison like Paul and Silas in God's will, and you'll be what? You'll be having a revival. They couldn't have the revival if they didn't understand that they were carrying out a purpose. You know when you're in the right place at the right time? You've had those moments in your life. I know you have to say, I'm in the right place at the right time. Had I not been here, you were in God's will. It feels good too. Yeah, it feels real good. You know? And some people are like, man, I'm not there right now. Okay, make an adjustment. You know how you make the adjustment? You do what John did on the Isle of Patmos. You make yourself available. You begin to seek the face of God. And you find out what the plan is. And he died to tell you. Like He died to tell you. Okay? He died to tell you. And He'd love to tell you right now. So, well, tell me. Yeah, it takes a little bit of effort. Okay? All right. That's a rabbit trail. But anyways, that menorah is so perfect. If you study it out, it's what my point is that back then, thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, before John's to have this vision, this thing's perfect. And a guy made it who had never saw one before. The Holy Spirit showed it to him. Give him the instructions to say, build it like this. Okay? And he had a steady hand and he built it. Ain't that neat? Is that not? I mean, if that don't click a little bit, you know, that should excite you. Like, wow, God's got me. I'm 4,000 years from there, right? And we're in Sunday school class this day, and we're talking about what happened then, and it applies right now. Yes. All right. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices, and there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. You can look at this. You can go back and look in Exodus. The awesome sight, the thunderings, the throne. This is all the things that happened on the mountain with Moses. These are the things that happened with Jesus and Elijah. These are the things that occurred, okay? You can go back and see it in Isaiah chapter 11. And then let's look at that right quick. Just for possibility. Isaiah 11, 1 and 3. This is what it reads. It says, and there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And if you look at that thing, you're going to be like, wow, there it is, and there it goes. And that's the tribe over here. I mean, it's just perfect. It's a map. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding. Here's the spirits. These are the spirits, guys. Here's the spirits. Are you ready? It says, shall rest upon him the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of fear and of the Lord. And shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of the Lord, and he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. He don't do it from what he heard and what he seen. He does it from what God said, by the word. Okay? Verse 6, and before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal, and in the midst of the throne and round about the throne were 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. It's really important that you understand that those beasts describes right there that he's mentioning. He's like, wow, there's some wild-looking beasts. We're going to describe them a little bit more. But the only difference between those beasts and the ones that fell from heaven is what? This is a simplistic way of saying it. This group's got the light on them, and this group don't. And they look identical. See, God made them, yes, for his pleasure then too, and to serve us. That's unique. That's fun. There they are. Big thing. Right? This one's of light, right? This one's of darkness. Wow. These were side by side at one time serving the same purpose. These aren't scarier than them to the eye. We just read he ain't going to go by what he sees and what he hears. He's going to go by what? What God said. And what Jesus tell them? You'll know by their what? Fruit. That's the only way you can tell them apart. Ain't that weird? Because most of the time in a church they say, ooh, creepy demon. Right? It'll get you at night. I mean, think about this. And then over here, big angel wings. No, they look the same. They were together at the same time, in the same place, serving the same God, till somebody said, don't serve him no more, serve me. That's, They look the same. Satan's a handsome dude. I like the silence. That means the wheels are turning. Oh, wow, I never thought of it like that. That's scary, what most people say. Nope. If it's scary, guess what? It didn't come from God. Oh. See that? So the only way you can tell them apart is by what? And how would you know what's good or bad? By the Word. That's how John knew what he was looking at. Okay? All right. Now, those beasts, and before the throne were the sea of glass with the crystal in the midst of the throne, and round about the throne were the four beasts full of eyes before and behind. And the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast like a calf. All right, now listen. John saw a lion. John saw a calf. He knows what they look like. He's described. That one looks like a lion. That one looks like a calf. Okay, so you can actually picture this stuff. All right. And the third beast had a face as a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. John saw all this stuff. He's describing all of it. This is what he's seen in the vision, caught up on the Lord's day, the second part when the door was opened. Right? Okay. If anybody came to you at work and said, yesterday I was praying and I seen a beast that looked like an eagle and one like a calf and one like a, what would you do? You'd go ahead and give them a sale, wouldn't you? Yep. You better listen. You don't just believe anything, but you go, well, I've read that before. Yeah, I've heard that before. We better check into that one. Why do you think these things that they're building all around the world? Go look. They're building these sculptures and worshiping them, and they look just like these things. It's like the old, like, do you believe in Bible stories? And they're like, well, you better, you're in one. You're living one every day. It's amazing. Okay. And just so you know, this sounds like the description of the same seraphim of Isaiah 6, verse 2 and 3. I'll read that right quick. Above it stood the seraphims each. One had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. So 2 of them covered his face, 2 of them covered his feet, and the other 2 flew him around. Isaiah wrote that one. cool is that? And one cried unto the other, and they said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. That's in Isaiah. So let's flip over here and say, verse 8, and the four beasts had each of them 6 wings. I've read that before somewhere. I bet John had heard about this guy somehow, some way, somewhere. It was passed down. He's like, All right. And then he goes on to say, and they were full of eyes within. This is all sounding close. And they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. They've done the same thing that he said he saw them do. And all of a sudden you can go, okay, this is lining up. And then he goes on to verse 9. And just know this, and if you want to have some more fun with it, their faces are like the description of the cherubim in Ezekiel 1:10, which says, as for the likeness of their faces, the 4 had the face of a man and the face of a lion on the right side, and the 4 of the face of an ox on the left side, and the 4 also had the face of an eagle. This is all starting to match. Okay? And then it goes on to say, and when those beasts give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever. Verse 10, the 24 elders fall down before him. Wham! That sat on the throne, and worship him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne, saying, verse 11, Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created. What's really unique is, it's all matching. Multiple places. And you can say, John's not crazy. Okay? He's in the spirit realm. He's seen in the spirit realm. If you look at James 1 and 12, it says, Blessed is the man that endureth temptation. For when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. These elders are taking off the crown of life and going, fling. Holy, holy, holy. Wow. And they're giving obeisance to the Lord. And they're worshiping and honoring him and praising him. Right? And just so you know, that's continually. You ever throw your hat down when you get mad? Right? Well, they're not mad. They're happy. And they're doing this over and over and over. It's kind of wild. Because that guy over there, when that dude says holy, and this over here is like, holy. And that one over, holy. And that one over, holy. Holy. They're responding to each other. And then the elder's like, yes. Bling. And they're all recognizing we wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for you. And when you wake up in the morning and say, thank you for another day, Lord, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have this ability. Your word framed the world. It keeps the sun coming up. It keeps the moon shining light. It keeps summer and winter. I ain't worried about no job. I'm going to have one. I don't care if they all quit. I don't care if the economy bursts. I don't care if the stock market disappears. He'll let pheasants fall out of the air. They're saying, hey, I'm with you. What do you need me to do? Because the only purpose you made me is for your pleasure. Everybody goes, well, that sounds good. But it's true. It's true. All right. Let's look at this right quick. Excuse me. Jesus spoke of his 12 apostles having 12 thrones and judging the 12 tribes of Israel. That's in Matthew 19, Luke 22 we looked at. It's a possibility that these 24 elders include the 12 apostles of Jesus who will be judging the tribes of Israel, plus the 12 elders who will be over the Gentile believers. Because God brings them all in together, right? Whether you be Jew or Greek, right? You're going to be at the what? Table. Don't matter. Okay? To the believer, that is. All right? I got a bunch of notes here. Look at this. Colossians 1, 15 through 17. This is talking about him, right? Who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible. Whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist. You don't exist in any manner without him. Even the person that is lost and doing their thing, whatever, pick the most vile whatever, they don't even get the opportunity to choose without him. He started it all. Let there be light. And that's the same light that's coming out of that throne, that's going through all that beautiful stuff, that's casting that rainbow. That's where it started. Okay? Pretty neat. Pretty cool stuff for me. I hope it is for you too. Then Hebrews 11:6, it says, notice that the reason of all things are and were created is for the Lord's pleasure. Many things changed after the fall of man, but God's purpose for creating us is still the same. We were created for his pleasure. Hebrews 11:6 states, but without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is. This is really important. You got to catch this. You say, I'd like to find out what my purpose is. I'd like to find out what my goal is. I'd like to find out what would please God for me to do. I would like to know, because if I knew, I'd do it. Be careful. Right? Because what you're doing is you're setting you up for the end of this, and this is what it says. It says, but without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. You're not going to run into them rewards that he's put out there for you unless you're seeking his face. He has laid out before you great things, spiritually and physically. But you shall not find them unless you diligently seek his face. Without seeking his face, you can't find him. It's not like he goes, oh, Tony, you're a good boy, now I shall reward thee. That's not how it works. What happens is this. From the beginning of the time, he put out law. Not like law out here on the road, but law, like laws of gravity, right? There's laws in the spiritual realm. That if you do this thing, you will get this reward. If you believe him, we just read there a while ago, if you hold fast, if you continually hold on, you're going to get a certain crown. You're going to get a certain robe. You're going to get other raiments. You're going to get many crowns, jewels, the thing, but you won't get them unless you're seeking him. It's that simple. Kids will understand it like playing a video game. If you don't make it to level 3, you don't get blah, 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 blah. It's the same for us. It's the same for those pastors he just wrote letters to. It's the same for it's the same. God's no respecter of persons, guys. He's a respecter of faith. You were specifically, fearfully, and wonderfully made for his pleasure. And if you will find that by seeking his face, you ain't going to be depressed. It might try to come to you, but you're like, that's the only way that anybody can glory in tribulation. You'll get to the point that you'll see it coming. You say, man, look, coming here. You see this disaster? You know what? On the other side of that, it's going to be awesome. And people's like, you're nuts. I want the easiest little path, no bumps in the road. If you do anything for God, you're going against the world. And if you're going against the world, they're going to do what? What are they going to do to you? He told you what they're going to do to you. They're going to persecute the devil out of you. Paul couldn't get out of it. And he said, oh, my grace is sufficient. Come on. And then Paul's like, you know what? Because I guarantee you the Apostle Paul constantly was seeking God's face. And you know what? I don't care how bad something is oppressing you or coming against you or holding you down. When you spend a few seconds in the presence of God, guess what happens? You're free. That's why it's so important to get to church. It's why it's so important to forsake not the assembly of the brethren. You know why? For 5 seconds of your eternity life, think about it. For just a moment that you can spend and listen to the word of God come out of somebody else, all of a sudden there's hope comes up out of it. And questions and wonder that takes your mind off of walking in the flesh. And it puts you into walking in the spirit. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, that was good. Because it got me off the world. And it got me into him. Yeah. That's why it's so important to make yourself available. To seek God's face just like John was. Put it in perspective. John was just boiled in a pot of oil. That pot of oil is said to have been 10 feet tall. And they lowered him into it, and they said as they were lowering him into it, he was preaching the gospel. Fire and brimstone. And he comes out unscathed, and they're like, we can't kill this guy. And the king's like, I hate this guy so much. He's causing me so much trouble because the people won't do what I want them to do. That's the world, right? So persecute him. They finally couldn't do so much with him. They said, just send him to Patmos. That's where the creepiest of the creeps and the worst of the worst of the terrible, insane, just crazy. Send him to just get him away from people. That's the devil, isolate you. Especially somebody that's on fire for God. He's going to do everything he can to isolate them from people. Because he knows that if you throw a lit match into fodder, what's going to happen? It's going to catch on fire. That's the purpose. He's going to do everything he can to isolate that person. The parable of the sower of Mark chapter 4. If they won't take root, if they take root and won't give up, and then they keep weeding, and then he's going to do what? The third part. He's going to grow everything he can to keep them busy. And in the fourth part, what happens? That's where you get your return, 30, 60, 100-fold. Fourth type of ground. But what's so amazing is that he has such a plan for you, that he is so perfect, and all you have to do is give up your time. Because John gets the greatest revelation that you know Satan was doing everything he could to stop. Because he knew who John was. You know, I know you, and I know Paul, who are you, right? Well, he said, I know you, and I know John, right? And you're you're going to face that persecution. And it's going to try to shut you up and sit you down and put you on. But guess what? Those that push through, that persevere, that endeavor until the end, who do not let go of the faith, who cling and hold fast, they're going to see this thing. And John saw it. And John was on the Isle of Patmos. You might as well say, I don't know, what's the highest security prison? What is that, like Max 6 or something? Level 6, whatever y'all call it. Anyways, worse than that, they wouldn't even let him be with the prisoners anymore. They were just like, put him on that island over there. That way if he tries to swim, something will eat him, he'll drown, die, something. And that's where he gets this that we've read today. What the world would consider the worst possible outcome for a human life, John gets the revelation of Jesus from God. That's amazing. That's why those guys, they talk about the gospel and how could it be, who would give up everything that the world could offer? It would have to be someone who was so fully in faith and belief that this man Jesus is the way, is the truth, is the life. I will not stop. And to a degree, I think John's going to be the other guy. That's just me. Everybody's got their opinions. But those two witnesses in the last day, I think it's going to be Moses and John. Or excuse me, Elijah and John. We know it's a prophet, right? It's Elijah and John. That's who I think it is. Because John went through it all. He went in there. He was covered. Peter got stopped at the door. John was in his bosom the night he's getting ready to get arrested. John's got this revelation, right? And all we can ever read is, John died of old age. He's the only one that didn't die in a martyrdom, torn apart, crucified, upside down craziness. John lived, that's how the story ends. John lived a ripe old age. So, people's got different opinions on that, but it's amazing. This book's awesome. Thank you for being here. Take you a break. It's going to be a good service. You'll enjoy it. Be back next week. We'll go to chapter 5, and we'll just keep going. We'll see where we end up.